I want to, on behalf of Waterkeeper Alliance, the parent organization that licenses all the riverkeepers, soundkeepers, baykeepers in the world, from India to China to Russia to the United States, Canada, Australia, South and Central America, I'm just so proud to be here with the family of Upper Chattahoochee Riverkeeper members, supporters, board members, volunteers, and staff. You all have one of the best Waterkeeper programs in the world. It is really an outstanding program. When I got started as a Riverkeeper 15 years ago, Sally had been on the job about 2 years being the Riverkeeper for the Upper Chattahoochee, and she was my mentor. And I learned so much about the way that she approached riverkeeping in the South, because the South is its own kind of universe, right? And back in those days, it wasn't really cool to be an environmental advocate and fight for the environment, especially in the South. You were an environmental wacko, right? And so it's like I needed to learn from Sally sort of how to do that well and in the South and with grace. And she is one of the most amazing riverkeepers in the world. And so I want to thank you all for making this program strong, viable, and supporting a strong riverkeeper, because she has been a leader and a mentor in the movement and inspired me very much. Sally told me I had 12 minutes to talk, which is really hard for a riverkeeper. I'm going to try my best to keep the time. And would y'all just let me know when the 10-minute mark hits so I can hit the marks and we can go back to drinking beer? So one of the things you guys already know is all the environmental stewardship that Upper Chattahoochee Riverkeeper does. You know about the history of the victories and the amazing things this group of people have done. So I want to talk to you a little bit about something different, something that I think is emerging in the awareness of people who do this work. I believe in my heart that not only is Upper Chattahoochee Riverkeeper a really great environmental steward of this beautiful liquid lifeline, as Sally says, that we see flowing behind us, but it's also a leader in terms of economic stewardship, or put more simply, job creation. Y'all are looking at me probably like I'm crazy. What is she talking about? We're environmental folks. We protect the river. But really, I want you to go back in time and think about some of the victories that Upper Chattahoochee Riverkeeper has had. I want you to think about the lawsuits against the city of Atlanta that changed how the city of Atlanta deals with its sewage. And I want you to internalize for a minute that poo creates jobs. Okay? Poo, really, it does. Poo, or better yet, keeping poo out of a river creates jobs. And so what we know, I've got some numbers here. I had to pick Sally's brains this morning and get some numbers for her, so I have to get this right, because she's a stickler for numbers and getting things right, which is what makes her a great riverkeeper, is the insistence on detail and accuracy. So the city of Atlanta estimates that it spent $2.2 billion on sewage infrastructure as a result of Upper Chattahoochee's insistence that they keep poo out of the river, right? DeKalb County now is going to be investing $700 million in new sewage infrastructure and in repairing existing sewage infrastructure. So DeKalb County estimates that $700 million will result in the creation of 500 jobs. And so there's some... 5,000 jobs. I dropped a zero in my notes. It will result in the creation of 5,000 jobs in DeKalb County. See, poo creates jobs, right? Okay. And then there's some engineering and labor statistics that says for every $1 billion in investment made in infrastructure, that creates 12 to 15,000 jobs. Well, we know City of Atlanta spent $2.2 billion. Look how many jobs that is. Poo creates jobs. Okay, so let's switch to another program that was pioneered by the Upper Chattahoochee Riverkeeper. I think a board member here, Denise Donahue, and Alice Champagne, and some other folks that were involved in creating the Get Out the Dirt program. Guess what? Dirt creates jobs. Or more importantly, keeping dirt out of rivers creates jobs. I just want y'all to think back in time, okay, like 10, 15 years ago. Not long ago. Think about developments that you saw, like a mall that was getting developed, right? A housing development, a strip mall, a big box like a Walmart. Think about that 15, 20 years ago. Did you remember seeing any silt fences then? Stormwater ponds and things like that back in the day? It really wasn't until environmental groups like Sally's program, like Upper Chattahoochee Riverkeeper, and a lot of other partners started saying, you know what, dirt in rivers is really bad. It clogs the rivers, it makes them less navigable, it affects water quantity and quality, it has fecal coliform bacteria and E. coli attached to it, it pollutes the river. We need to keep dirt out of rivers, and we need to engineer solutions to that. So you started seeing, as a result of the implementation of regulations and local stormwater programs and rules and laws and some lawsuits, an entire industry go up that was all about keeping dirt out of rivers. There were white-collar jobs that were created from the engineering firms that had to draw the stormwater plans. There were specialty development companies, or earth-moving companies really, that began to grow up and be created in order to build stormwater sediment basins, check dams, and all the things, all the engineering things that are used to keep dirt out of rivers. We had whole firms in North Carolina, that's the only thing they did. Their specialty business was keeping dirt out of waterways. And it came as a result of environmental advocacy and the push by environmental groups to stop putting dirt in rivers. And so Alice and Sally and Denise and all the folks who created and pioneered the Get Out the Dirt program in Georgia, that thing was so effective and so popular that it got replicated, and we had that program and adopted it in North Carolina. We called it Muddy Water Watch in North Carolina. Now the Riverkeepers in Alabama are doing the same thing. And so when I say that you guys are leaders, you really are. This Upper Chattahoochee Riverkeeper really is cutting edge and leaders in this movement. And what's really important as we're going forward in time is the connection between environmental stewardship and economic enhancement. Those two things are coupled and linked, and whenever you fight for the environment and get the protections that are needed for rivers, you get an economic enhancement benefit. Let's talk about one more example that creates jobs. I want you to think back, again, 15, 20 years ago. Did you ever see rain barrels being made out of recycled Coca-Cola syrup containers and art and kids painting them? Who has sat on and used a dual flush toilet? Really, I'm serious. Some of us have. They're still so new that not all of us have. Let's raise your hand, those of you who've never sat up and used a dual flush toilet yet. I want to see. See, because it's emerging technology that was created by people who are activists for water conservation, for the need to protect water quantity, right? So think of all the other things that have been innovative technology and inventions for conservation of water. There's the rain barrel rain collection systems that now involve kids and art that are amazing. And then there's whole irrigation kind of systems. They used to be incredibly wasteful. Some of them still are. But more and more you see timed irrigation systems, drip irrigation, low flow irrigation. And so there's been a shift towards how can we do this without wasting water and be more efficient. Now more needs to be done. We really need to have more in terms of water quantity preservation and efficiency. But there's so many things that are emerging and coming on the market as a result of ingenuity, of new jobs being created that are oriented to save and protect water. And so the three things that I've mentioned so far, poo creates jobs, dirt creates jobs, and water conservation creates jobs and innovation and involves the community. I mean, how many people had ever heard of a rain garden before 5 or 6 years ago? Anybody? And now they're making rain gardens in homes and schools. How many have ever heard of green and sustainable building and design before 10, 15 years ago? Now we have LEED certifications and all those things. And those architects and engineers who are building sustainable dwellings and business places for us, those are green jobs that are created. And that insistence on stewardship of the environment is creating jobs. So I'm going to wrap it up there. How much? I'm going to. All right. So one thing I want to just finish with saying to y'all is, our country is facing a time where grassroots involvement and people's involvement is really important. for members like members of Upper Chattahoochee Riverkeeper, and for y'all to say, you know what, we're Americans, we're smart, we're innovative, and we're not going to settle for just one thing. We can bloody well talk and chew gum, walk and chew gum at the same time. We can. We can conserve the environment, protect these river resources, and have jobs and economic prosperity. We can do both of those things, and as members, grassroots members, voters, taxpayers of conservation organizations like Upper Chattahoochee Riverkeeper, we insist on that. And the reason we insist on that is because our neighborhood rivers are beloved lifelines for our community, and we want people to be prosperous and healthy in our communities. And we need good green jobs, economic enhancement that benefits us in the future and gives our children a great place to play, recreate, and work and live. And so I want y'all to look around at each other and internalize that as members and supporters of Upper Chattahoochee Riverkeeper, you are those people. You are those Americans who say we can do both and we must do both. And with my membership dollars and my membership in Upper Chattahoochee Riverkeeper, I'm insisting on that and paying for great staff members who will get that job done and lead and innovate and show how we can do both and be a leader in this country and show us a better and more sustainable future. So I want to come here from North Carolina and I want to tell you how much y'all inspire me by your insistence that we can do those things at the same time. And that you take out of your pockets every year a little bit of money and maybe a lot of money to support Upper Chattahoochee Riverkeeper so they can be a leader in this country and show the way forward for how we can do that. You guys inspire me. You're amazing. I hope you will give the gift of clean water as a Christmas gift and get more people involved in that amazing work to make our communities and our waterways more sustainable, because it's a whole lot of fun to get people involved and feel good about doing something right for our country and our community. I kind of like to give them away as gifts in a little bit of a mischievous way. Like, I typically will pick the most ultra-right-wing conservative kind of member of my family who thinks that still that old way that environmentalists are a little bit off, and give them a gift membership so they start getting all this information about the great work that's being done. And occasionally they'll have an epiphany and they'll come around and say, you know what? You guys aren't crazy after all. Really, you're not. You're doing great work for our communities, and it's creating jobs, and it's enhancing the future for my children and my grandchildren and my friends, and I want to support you. So I hope you'll consider doing that for the holiday season this year. It's just getting other people involved and growing the membership so Upper Chattahoochee Riverkeeper can continue to be a leader and inspire many. Thank you very much.